I want to talk a little bit about environment and climate change mitigation. This is another topic that gathered a lot of questions. So listeners have asked the following question in one way or another. What is your specific plan to reduce the city's carbon footprint? And especially when, according to the 2018 Community Greenhouse Gas Emissions Inventory Report, that we have actually started trending in the wrong direction. We're getting farther away from the goal of steep emissions cut by 2030.
Sure. And, when we passed the first sort of climate change foundation, which became the foundation for the Green New Deal, we were very excited about it, but we have not lived up to the expectations of the Green New Deal. And I think many people are wondering why. Now, we obviously had with the pandemic and with some of the economic slowdown issues we had because of the pandemic, we had some challenges there. So I released a few days ago a much deeper dive on our climate pledge, our climate change platform, which is endorsed by many leaders in the global warming field and the climate change field. So yes, we will do everything we can do. We will make sure that we rid ourselves off of fossil fuels from our vehicles. Yes, we will, in our transit master plan, we will lead with transit and make sure we're getting people out of their single occupancy cars. Yes. We'll make sure our buildings are carbon neutral, that they are environmentally sustainable. Yes. We will ban our use from natural gas as an example. We will allow, if you look at what happened in Olympia, this is groundbreaking stuff. Our cap and trade law, our HEAL Act, our ban on plastics. We passed some of the most aggressive laws in the state, which, by the way, will generate hundreds of millions of dollars. And I want those dollars to trickle into our residents, our communities, such that they can enjoy the benefits of solar in their house. They can convert and have electric cars if they choose to still have a car. So we are at the beginning of, I think, some exciting times in Seattle. And I think the Green New Deal is an aggressive platform, but an achievable platform. So I think thanks to what was happening in Olympia, and I had many conversations with Reuven Carlisle, who's endorsed me, and Marilyn Strickland on the federal government, who's endorsed me, both of whom are championing climate change. We have a great situation here in Seattle to actually make good on the Green New Deal. And, it's an economic driver. When we think about how we're going to harness water and the tides and the wind and everything we could possibly generate from a renewable energy standpoint, we can build around that because we have the technology here. So I'm pretty excited about actually making good on the Green New Deal.
Yeah, there's two main reasons why it is true that we have taken a step backwards on our goals towards being a carbon neutral city. The first one is that single occupancy vehicles, driving your car around the city, is the number one contributor to our increase in greenhouse gas emissions. The second reason is our buildings. Which still have access to fossil fuels and which produce methane, which then results in, again, poor quality of air and water, and is setting us back. So the reality is that the next mayor has to really focus on building a city, on changing the course of how we feel and look like a city by prioritizing multimodal transportation and transit options throughout the city that are themselves also green. So not putting more dirty buses on the street, but putting green buses on the street by increasing, the amount of electric vehicle infrastructure that we have throughout the city, by creating more bike and pedestrian friendly, safe ways for us to get around. And that's why I've been talking a lot about my vision around building a city that is a 15-minute city, a city in which you can get to your park, your school, your doctor, your daycare, anywhere you need to go, your grocery store, within a 15-minute walk or bike ride. It is absolutely critical that we put ourselves on that path to make it easier for people to not be car dependent in our city. And that is a important strategy to getting us back on track and towards being a carbon neutral city. So that's my vision for the city, and I think we can do that through that 15-minute city smart growth planning, as well as making sure that we are preventing the ongoing increased infrastructure of fossil fuel to our commercial and residential buildings.
Quick follow-up. Would you enact any policies that would de-incentivize people to use their cars?
Yeah, we've talked a lot about congestion pricing. That is one mechanism by which to disincentivize people from continuing to drive. A lot of the driving is primarily into and out of our downtown area. Of course, that kind of a policy needs to have a very strong racial equity analysis goal to make sure that we are not disproportionately impacting our lowest income Black and Brown community members. And I'd be interested in making sure that that analysis gets completed so that we have a good understanding of how to make that kind of a policy an equitable policy. But again, that kind of a policy needs to be accompanied with these bigger changes around how we are planning for growth that is both equitable and much more sustainable in terms of our commitment to being a green city.
Aside from the jumpstart tax, Seattle's had a little bit of a spotty record when it comes to new taxes. The head tax was passed. Then it was repealed about a month later. The wealth tax got tossed around courtrooms, ultimately was deemed unconstitutional. So often when it takes months to pass these taxes and the inevitable lawsuits, a lot of times these taxes never come to pass. Why do you feel that that's the best approach?
I feel that taxing the wealthiest in our city and requiring our largest, most profitable corporations to pay their fair share is the right choice, because I hear every single day from regular constituents in this city who are just exhausted about the amount of property taxes and sales taxes that they have to pay. It is increasingly becoming a city that is designed for the wealthy and is becoming exclusive to those who can have the luxury and privilege of living in this city. And so the last thing we need to do is double down on those regressive taxes. And so there is an opportunity for us to go back to that income tax that you referenced in your question. The reason it got tossed out by the court is because we tried to make it progressive. But there is an opportunity for us to go back to the table to create the coalition that's going to be necessary to get that passed and to incorporate a tax credit, for example, that would build in some progressive nature to it, but still, focus on getting the additional revenue that we're going to need to really address this issue. There's always the option of going to the ballot, of course, on larger issues, and I think that is another opportunity that we can explore. And of course, if the capital gains tax arrives at the state level, we will have an opportunity to build on top of that and create additional revenue for the city of Seattle. The payroll tax, which I was a sponsor of, Jumpstart Seattle, co-sponsor of, we'll have an opportunity to sort of fine tune that on the outward years to see if we need to use it to create additional revenue. And of course, we have ongoing federal income coming into the city that could be prioritized and focused on this issue as well. But I do feel it's really important to take a look at all of those additional tools to increase the amount of progressive revenue available to address the root causes of homelessness, which are poverty, inequality, and to also create greater investments in our mental health and behavioral health systems to address those unmet needs of individuals who are outside right now.
And real quick, when we refer to a regressive system, are we including property tax levies in that?
I mean, absolutely. All property taxes are considered to be regressive because lower income families are paying proportionally more than wealthier property owners. So that, along with the sales tax, and I would also add with our business and occupation tax, the tax that's paid by small businesses in our current system. A small business owner pays infinitely more taxes in the city of Seattle's B&O tax structure than a corporation like Amazon does. And so there's another opportunity to give relief to our small businesses by reforming our business and occupation tax system to create more progressivity there and potentially garner more significant revenues from our city's largest and most profitable corporations.
You do get a lot of backing from some wealthy folks for your campaign if you look at the SEC documents. And I guess the question is for progressives that are concerned about our regressive tax system. They want somebody who's going to get in there and push to raise taxes on big business and the wealthy, despite the legal challenges that we have here in Washington State, no income tax allowed and that sort of thing. And so I wonder if you can speak to that sentiment or criticism that's certainly out there.
Sure. So number one is, when I hear that criticism, I ask a person to point at one example in my public service in 12 years in office, all of the philanthropic work that I've done, all of the nonprofit work that I've done. Give one example where I've ever sided with quote unquote big business to the detriment of people. They can't. So when it comes to our regressive tax system, the irony is that we have more diverse legislators in Olympia than we've ever had. And look what they were able to do. The Black Leadership Caucus supports my candidacy. I believe we'll actually attack the regressive nature of our tax system, one of the most regressive in this country. I think we'll attack that and stop talking about it next year. When you look at who supports me, we were able to do that through climate change. We were able to do that through the police reform laws, unprecedented police reform laws. That's why representation does matter. So what I tell those critics is, give us some time. We will make sure the wealthy corporations and high net worth individuals pay their fair share of taxes. That is just a given. And when people want to say that because they know either my financial status or what my wife and I we've been in telecom and technology in our lives, they'll say, well, they must not get it. We get it because we both came from very humble means. We are willing to pay our fair share of taxes, and everyone should be. Who best to lead this discussion is someone that has been a beneficiary of this incredible wealth. I've sat in rooms with high net worth individuals and very powerful people. And what I tell them, several things. Number one is, we have to reform our tax system, number one. Number two is, I need your jobs and your dollars here to align with the needs of our community. Housing, we spend a lot of time on housing. They can help with housing. They can help with homelessness. And so what you're going to see is not only someone that will champion progressive taxes, but someone that's capable of doing it, someone that has the relationships and has the tenacity to do that. So that's why, to your earlier question about labels, is I'm probably best positioned to help achieve defeating the regressive tax system than anyone that ran out of the 15 candidates.